everybody, and welcome to the Tardis Zone. And happy 4th of July or Independence Day to all of our listeners from the US of A. I hope you're all doing very well indeed. It's just myself tonight. Christian, of course, will be celebrating Independence Day with family and friends. So we are here on our own today, and I hope Christian has a great time. He'll be here with us next week. So I wanted to kind of change the topic up for today. And as it is July 4th, we're going to talk about American cinema, but we're gonna ask everybody. It doesn't matter from what country you are from, but we all have a movie that inspires us or makes us all feel patriotic. For example, Rocky Four, for example, is a movie that inspires a lot of people, especially when Rocky is fighting the Russian who's basically cheating, and he gives that whole big speech in the end. And movies like that make people feel patriotic. So I want to get your opinions. I want to find out what movies you guys like. What movies make you feel patriotic or inspire you. Um, and as it is July 4th, obviously, if it's not too early, we'll have some of our American viewers watching. Maybe they can throw in their movies as well. So that's what I wanted to do. So I suppose I'm from Ireland, as you all know, and of course we've got a lot of Irish movies. So I suppose I'll kick it off by telling the movie that kind of makes me feel patriotic and inspires me, and that's the movie Michael Collins. Michael Collins obviously is about the War of Independence. It starts off obviously with 1916, Eamon de Valera and co. It's a good movie. But every time I watch that movie, just something stirs up inside me. And by the end of the movie, I'm actually a blubbering mess. And if you haven't seen Michael Collins, by the way, and you're into Irish history, of course, there's nothing better than reading books and stuff. But if you're not into reading books, I suppose you could watch the movie. Obviously, some of the things that happen in the movie, or the locations, were changed. But on the whole, the movie is fantastic and gives an insight to what was happening in our country and the threat that we faced. And obviously, we faced a similar threat today. Our democracy is under attack by our very own government and Europe, and the Irish people have finally had enough. And it's great to see me fellow citizens, not taking this lying down, and are obviously stepping up to the plate. As I always believe the Irish do anyway, we always step up to the plate, I have to say. But this is one of these moments where everybody needs to step up. But I don't want to really get into what happens in Ireland on this channel, especially on YouTube, because YouTube is obviously very restrictive. That's why we set up a Rumble, and I will be talking about my own country on Rumble. I've kind of decided that it would be interesting for people to find out what's actually going on in our country and how it's being run. And right now, it's been run like an absolute lunatic asylum. Um, but Michael Collins always does that for me. I mean, She Moves Through the Fair is the song in it. Sinead O'Connor sings it. And for anybody that doesn't know anything about Irish history, and you want to watch the movie, spoiler, but if you want to close your ears now. But of course, Michael Collins dies in the end, and I end up a blubbering mess, as I said. It's awful. Lindsay is in the chat. Nice to see you, Lindsay. Yeah, it's a slow one today. I'm pretty sure more people will come into the chat when they realise I'm live. Some of them are just probably finishing up on tea. I do think the Irish based film Circle of Friends is one of my favourite films. Yeah. I don't think I've actually seen that one, Lindsay. I got to be honest with you. It'll be interesting to see what other suggestions, because obviously we will get more people in the chat. They probably don't realise I'm live right now because I didn't give any warning, to be quite honest with you. Just trying to get back to normal. The wife has come back from a holiday as well, so everything is just all over the place right now. But yeah, I mean, and then there's another movie that I watched, which kind of stored me patriotism, and that would be In the Name of the Father with Daniel Day-Lewis. Absolutely brilliant movie. If you haven't seen it, it focuses obviously on the troubles in Northern Ireland, and people are wrongly accused of a bombing campaign, and they all get sent to prison. And it turns out that the British government basically covered it all up. They knew who the real people that were behind it, and they knew they were free. But because the British public were so stirred by the bombing campaign, they wanted justice. So as far as the police were concerned, if they got anybody, and basically they got the confessions out of them by beating up all of these people and stuff. And that would be another one of those movies that does really get me going. Look, as I said, two countries have moved on, but you don't ignore the past. You've got to learn from it. But it is very horrifying what both sides were willing to do to win this. And, it's one of those movies, again, if you're into Irish history. And Daniel Day-Lewis, again, I mean, the guy never seems to make a bad movie. I mean, maybe The Boxer, that was a bit of a weak movie, but other than that, I don't think he's made too many bad movies. But they're the type of movies, as I said, that get me going and all patriotic. And sport can do the same thing, of course. But as we're talking about movies right now, we've got 7 people listening right now. I don't know, maybe people are just listening in while they're eating or having a cup of tea, but we normally have a lot more people in the chat and interacting today. So if you just want to come in, say hello, let us know what movies make you guys feel all patriotic. Obviously we hope to hear from some of our American subscribers, which we usually do, and hopefully they'll be able to tell us what their favorite movie is that inspires them and makes them all patriotic. Remember, we're on Twitter at Noel Zone, Instagram at Tardis Noel, YouTube Noel the Red Devil if you're into football, Manchester United, at the Tardis Zone right here on YouTube, and Rumble, the Tardis Zone. But I will be changing the Rumble name because as I said, I'll be talking about other stuff on that platform. I won't be doing the same stuff that I do here on Rumble, like some content creators do. I'm going to be using that to talk about the stuff that's going on in my country and all of that other stuff that's going on as well. Like the Titanic stuff that we talked about as well. We talked about the UFO. Um, all of a sudden, the US government like letting us know that, oh, there has been these flying objects. When they do a big expose like that, means something bigger is coming along. So we spoke about that as well. We spoke about other issues on it as well. I had a few guests on as well. So if you haven't checked out Rumble, please do. But I don't know what's happening with the chat tonight. As I said, we normally have people in chatting away. And, there's only so many movies I could talk about that come from my country that make me feel all patriotic. So I did Michael Collins and In the Name of the Father. I mean, they're the two movies that stick out for me. I mean, there's other movies that I wouldn't say patriotic is the right word that they make me, but I do love The Snapper, The Van, The Commitments. I love all of those movies. They captured Dublin back in the day, so it does make me proud, I suppose, to be from Dublin. And I just love the sense of humor. And if you've never seen those movies, it's called the Barrytown Trilogy. If you haven't seen the Barrytown Trilogy, you really need to see it, especially The Snapper. But the van is funny as well. There's a particular scene in the van, and the van is about a chip van, and two friends decide to basically work together in this chip van, right? So one of them loses his job, gets redundancy, and he decides that he's going to set up his own little business and run a chip van. But he doesn't want to run it on his own. He wants to run it with his best friend. And then, of course, all hell breaks loose. There's one particular incident where they're at the beach, and of course they're serving fish and chips, and there's a whole gang of kids there with their ma, and she's there. No, these two are mine, but they're off a little. She's slagging them off, right? And all the other kids, right? And the next of all, this old man runs up, right? Runs up with his fish in his hand, right? And he goes, come here, you. That's not fish. That's not fish. He goes, it is nice and fresh from the freezer, right? And then Des is the character. He looks at it. He goes, but that's not. Oh, that's not Des. The other fella. Go, but that's not fish. That's. So they look at it. He goes, what is it? It's a nappy. They battered a nappy because Desi has his daughter working in the chip van as well, but she's brought the kid along. And somehow what's happened is one of the kids' nappy has been battered by accident and then fried up. But the nappy obviously wasn't dirty or anything, right? But then your man goes mad. He wants to get their license plate and all of that. So they pack up and they leg it off, right? But then he chases them on the bike, right? On his bike. This fella chases the van on the bike. And Desi then starts throwing cans at him. Here, you want more fish? Starts throwing more fish at him and everything. Oh, it's the funniest film you'll ever see. It's got some lovely moments in it as well. Lindsay says, Philomena, I think I got that right. It's another good Irish-based film with finding out her son, who was taken away by the nuns, did work with the president. Sad ending, says Lindsay. And also, Lindsay is saying, I suppose you could say the James Bond movies. Yeah, for the British, I suppose the James Bond movies would be considered patriotic. Um, I do like the James Bond movies myself. I do like the James Bond franchise. Haven't liked the direction it's gone in the last couple of years, but you know, I still like Casino Royale, and Quantum of Solace was rubbish, but I don't care what anybody says. Skyfall is up there. Is one of the best Bond movies ever made, in my opinion. And I grew up watching Connery and more. Wasn't a huge fan of Pierce Brosnan, George Lazenby, and I liked his Bond. I liked that movie on Her Majesty's Secret Service. And Timothy Dalton's too, and The Living Daylights and License to Kill. I consider them ahead of their time and actually really good dark Bond movies. And it'll be interesting to see what direction they'll go with the franchise this time. But yeah, James Bond, I would say. See, in America, they've got loads of different movies, especially their historical movies. But it would have been interesting. I mean, we've got 8 people watching. I don't know whether there's something broke with the chat or something, and I could just see your comments, Lindsay. But normally we have a lot more people in the chat interacting. I wonder if I've done something wrong. Anyway, yeah, so the James Bond movies, I suppose you got a point there. We've kind of covered Ireland. There's probably a few more. I just can't think off the top of my head. I mean, Veronica Guerin's a good movie, but that's about the war on drugs. So that's but it is a great movie. Um, I can't think of another one that I hmm, yeah, I can't think of another one in Ireland that I could say that makes me feel patriotic, except for, as I said, Michael Collins and in the Name of the Father. But two cracking movies if you haven't seen them. Irish cinema is actually very good. And I'm not being biased here. It actually is very good. Um, it kind of does annoy me when they get American actors to play or to do Irish accents, but at the same time, they are actors, and I do kind of get where they're coming from. But it's nice when we make our movies and they end up being usually successful, because then the Americans then and the rest of the Europe can then see them. You know what I mean? Um, but yeah, Irish cinema is very good, um, and some cracking movies out there. Let's see. I mean, this is going to be the shortest stream that I've had in a while. I'll see. We're live streaming on Twitter as well. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe I'll have to stop doing that to encourage people to come into the chat. But we'll have a look, see if there's any comments. I do know I've upset a few people on Twitter today, as you do. You can't even open your mouth. You can't even say boo on Twitter. without anybody um, having a moan at you for something that you've said. Um, but you know what? I'm just kind of thinking as well. It's only what? It's only 7 o'clock here, so it's probably what? It's the afternoon over there. Um, Probably. We do normally do a stream for Independence Day. Um, I suppose maybe I did it a bit too early. I think last year we did it at 10 o'clock or 9 o'clock or something. Um, I think the chat has fell asleep. That's not. It's never a good sign, is it? Um, I suppose I could probably name some American movies that I think would make Americans feel all patriotic, but then that'd be just my personal opinion. Um, but I have heard a few people say, say American Sniper, for example, is a movie that makes some Americans feel all patriotic. Um, I've actually seen a couple of comments on Twitter about it. That's why I'm actually mentioning that movie. Um, I suppose any historical war movie they've done. I mean, we could mention loads, wasn't there? That one, We Were Soldiers, with Mel Gibson. Is that the name of it? I think that's what the name of it was. You had Behind the Enemy Lines. Um, Saving Private Ryan. Um, Someone's probably going to have to be saving Tom Hanks's privates if all the rumors that I've seen on Twitter are true. American Sniper is disturbing to watch. Shows how fanatical and sick jihads are, says Sadako 24. I mean, I've seen some I've seen some great war movies, but I will agree with you that they are disturbing watch, but that's the whole point. Yeah, when you're making these, I don't agree with. See, this is why I like Tarantino movies, myself personally, um, because he tries to put as much realism, and I mean with the violence and stuff like that. He tries to put as much realism as he can into his movies, and I think if you're going to be making historical movies, you've got to make them that way. Um, you've got to make that. And I know some people argue against that because they say, and this, and look, I'm going to say it out straight. This does seem to be a problem that seems to be mostly affects the United States. Is we hear from senators and the politicians over there and the media over there that video game violence and these type of movies are they're responsible for the level of violence. That's bullshit, man. Right? We grew up watching the same movies as well. Right? Got them back in the day. We got them a lot. We had to wait a longer time, obviously, to get them. Obviously, the Americans got their movies for obviously rightly so, but we had to wait a few months, maybe in some cases a year, for the movie to be released over here. But we watched the same things. But yeah, you don't see our youth or people going around doing what happens in America. It's nothing to do with video game or movie violence. You got to look. Look, I've said this plenty of times on stream. Americans especially, you need to watch what you are consuming. You need to read the back of labels and see what you are putting in your body. And what's happening is they're putting things into food that chemically alter your brain, right? In Europe and in Ireland, right, we haven't eradicated all the nasties. We haven't, but we've eradicated most of them. I mean, it's a startling difference. You need to get rid of all of these adjectives, all of these chemicals that they pour in, all of these colorings. And then on top of that, you've got a pharmaceutical problem. Is the best way to put it. And you need to get a hold on that as well. Pharmaceutical companies are actually destroying America. We got James Dawson in the chat as well. And he, one of our members, and he says, hi, nice to see you. See 7 o'clock. I probably should have started at 7 because 6:30 is a weird time because everybody's used to me starting at 7. So I think that's what it was. But as I said, we'll be continuing here. But obviously the topic of conversation here is what movies make you feel all patriotic. But then we got sidetracked because we were talking about the realism in movies. And Sadako says, I get the need to be gritty and brutal in historical films, but it definitely left a disturbing after impression because it reminds us people like that still exist. Yes, there is pure evil in the world. There is no doubt. But I do not think what's happening as a whole in every country in our societies with all of this left-wing nonsense is helping the situation either. It's dividing people. The left want to put us all into little categories and little boxes and stuff like. They want to divide us. Exactly. There you go. And that's the thing. The left wing, right, are not actually the left wing. What they don't realize is in reality, they are the right wing. Right? I mean, today I got called the bad German word, the N word, as you know, for simply pointing out that a man sticking his nipple in a child's mouth, a baby, was wrong. I don't care if you identify as a woman, right? And that's the key word, identify, right? I don't care if you identify as a woman. If a straight man or a gay man did that, all hell would break loose. And people would be calling that person all sorts of names and stuff like that. But because this person identifies as a woman who was biologically born male, done it, there is no issue. I'm a bad German. It's ironic. Morals have gone out the window. But anyway, back to our topic because we're getting sidetracked here. So we need to back to the topic. So James, as you're new in the chat there, and Sadako, give me your movies. What are your personal choices? What movies make you guys feel all patriotic? Now, obviously, if you're starting from America, you can give me whatever movie from your country makes you feel all patriotic. I gave my examples at the start, which were Michael Collins and In the Name of the Father, but especially Michael Collins, or there'd be a blubbering mess after that movie. So, let me know what your guys. Let me know what movies inspire or make you feel all patriotic. But it's just, yeah, it's just sad the way society has turned out, though. Just while I'm waiting on the guys to give their opinion in the chat. We got 10 people watching at least. If you're not in the chat, do us a favor, give the stream a like or a dislike. And if you could give me serious choices, I don't know if Raymond is actually taking the P with this one, but I'll throw it up. He says Zulu. That's when the British were fighting. Who were they fighting again? The Indian Empire, wasn't it? Or something. You'll have to refresh me memory on that one. In fairness, though, me learning British history is not a thing that, I was really into doing. Being Irish and all. So we've Sadako and James. No, no movies or anything that inspire you guys. No. Lindsay said this earlier on. Where is it? Where is it? It's here. No. Hold on. Maybe that's what's happened now. Oh. Fighting the Zulus are African. Okay. 14 Victorian Crosses awarded for valor. I haven't seen that movie since I've got to be honest, I have not actually seen that movie since I was probably in my teens. But it's a movie my dad, again, it's one of those movies that was always on Channel 4. They repeated it every couple of months. Do you remember when that's another thing I've noticed as well, actually. Because it reminds me of what's over here as well. I've noticed how TV stations like the BBC, Channel 4 and all used to be all patriotic back in the day, and they wouldn't be afraid to flaunt it. Nowadays, they're all the same. They're just all generic channels. Yeah, that's the movie. As I said, I haven't seen it since my teens, man. But yeah, Michael Caine's a great actor. I do like that. Actually, what's that movie he was in? Was it Harry Brown? Where obviously he was an old army vet, and there was a couple of bullies in the estate, and they beat up his friend. That was a good movie. I don't know if the Brits would find that patriotic. So, any other movies, Raymond, as you seem to be the only one interacting right now? Oh, there's Lindsay back again with another suggestion as well. Was there any other movie out there that inspires you? Dam Busters. Again, I think I've only seen that once. Remember the Dirty Dozen Part 1, and there was a second part as well, wasn't there? Dirty Dozen Part 1 and 2. And Escape to Victory was another one. That had Sylvester Stallone and all in it, didn't it? And Michael Caine and not Michael Caine, Pele. Oh, it did have Michael Caine in it, didn't it? Yeah, it did. Battle of Britain, says Raymond Williams. Oh, Raymond Williams, yeah. I've definitely seen that as well, but I can't remember. Dam Busters and Battle of Britain. Yeah. Again, yeah, great choices there, guys. Um, I mean, you again, like the American style, you Brits have a lot of patriotic movies, though, don't you? Obviously, us Irish, we're neutral, but like we had our own problems here. Um, but yeah, it's mad. The Great Escape. Do 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 do. Yeah, I saw someone do a weird edit with that or something, or they done something with it. Oh no, it wasn't. It was in that Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, wasn't it? That movie with bleeding Brad Pitt and Co. But The Great Escape, yeah, that's a good movie, man. Yeah. Anyway, unless there's any more suggestions, I think this was a bad idea to do a stream on Independence Day. I normally do go later, but I wanted to actually do an early one today, thinking maybe people would. They usually had to stick in an American for the international audience. Steve McQueen was a movie star. Yeah, but he was actually good in the movie. I mean, you can't fault though. I thought he was good in the movie, man. I mean, he wanted escape was that was funny, man. He was a good actor, man, and he was, yeah, proper movie star. But still, you know, I wouldn't say The Great Escape is an underrated movie, but you know, the bike chase, yeah, man, I'll have to watch that movie again. I do like that movie. I mean, what's there not to like about it? Escaping from a PRW camp, bring it on. I do like those sort of movies as well. I have to be honest. We have a few Irish ones. I think there was a. I only watched it once. It was the Escape from H Block one. Oh, and I watched Hunger as well. That was a bit, yeah, yeah. We don't have really many movie stars anymore. I would say Tom Cruise is up there. Did you see the video that he threw up of him hanging on the edge of an airplane? I mean, the guy is absolutely crazy. Independence Day was very patriotic. Jeff Goldblum and Will Smith. You know what? That's still one of my favorite American Independence Day kind of movies that they do, or patriotic movies that they do. It's over the top, but it's brilliant. Some of the effects don't hold up as well as they did back then, but that iconic scene, wasn't it? The Empire State Building they blew up and that. I mean, that whole blown up scene they did it at different angles and all was brilliant at the time. It's still one of my favorites actually. And I do love, when Will Smith like punches the air. Welcome to Earth. I mean, it's just one of those. Film Union says, and welcome to the chat. Film Union says, I'm going to see Oppenheimer next week. Yeah, apparently Tom Cruise is going to be seeing Oppenheimer and Barbie, and the same with Margot Robbie. She went to see, obviously, Barbie, but she went to see Oppenheimer as well. They seem to be supporting each other. And actors like Tom Cruise as well, if it's true, I mean, they said the whole thing. Tom Cruise said the Flash movie was one of the best bleeding movies ever and all of this crap. And we've seen how that all panned out. Maybe Tom Cruise is wary of how bad and fragile Hollywood is. He's just trying to lend a helping hand, because when he does speak, people listen, especially when it comes to movies. But the Barbie movie and Oppenheimer are both tracking to do very, very well when they are released. And I will now finally watch both because Aqua song is going to be in it, and that was my one condition of watching Barbie. But I will watch it, man, because it'll be just what it is. And, I want to see if they can actually make a Barbie movie without having all the politics in it and just make a Barbie movie. That'll be absolutely fantastic. But we'll see. But Oppenheimer, I think everybody's been waiting on this movie. Cillian Murphy. I just look next week. It can't come soon enough. Lindsay says she prefers romantic comedies. I do like a good romantic comedy, I have to say. I'm not going to say I'm one of these blokes that doesn't watch them. Every bloke does watch a romantic comedy if they're in a relationship with someone. Trust me, they do. They might pretend that they don't, but they do. OTT, but OTT cheesy, but it's still fun. Yeah, Independence Day is all over the top, but you know what? It is a great movie. It's just a pity the second one was so fucking dire. Oh man, do you know what? And I even refused to watch it when it came out, and then I just kept putting it off. And then one day I was just scrolling for a movie to watch, and there it was. And I said, you know what? I'll just give it a go. It was the worst decision I made. Lindsay says, well, I'm glad you came on. No, thanks. I appreciate that. I know, I have to be mindful. It is Independence Day because you know yourselves, we'd have everybody interacting with each other in the chat and all, and it'd be great. I'm not saying it's not a great stream. It's just it's difficult when I've nobody to interact with because there's only so much I could talk, especially if it's a best of American cinema. Maybe I should have went a bit broader with the topic so I could talk a little bit more. But I wanted to treat my parents to see Oppenheimer as a thank you for helping me with my work, says Film Union. Well, I hope you do enjoy it with your parents. There's no better experience than going to see a movie with your family in the cinema, I've got to say. I will go and see Oppenheimer when I get back from holiday. I like Cillian Murphy from Peaky Blinders. Yeah. Going to the cinema with my family is very expensive. Oppenheimer and Mission Impossible will probably be the only movies I go to see this year. Exactly. A cinema ticket is off the scale now. And then on top of that, you get your munchies in. Now, I don't know if it's still a thing, but I remember back, this is ages ago since I've been to the cinema. They used to frown upon bringing your own little munchies. You just had to sneak them in. But the food, even for a packet of M&Ms, you're paying up to 6.50, €6.50 or something. It's ridiculous. Like, it's ridiculous. Bring your own if you can. Sure, I can make me own homemade popcorn and bring it with me. Yeah, no, it was bad. It was. I regret watching Independence Day 2, Resurgence. Was really bad and felt like a cash grab. I hope they don't make a sequel to Stargate where Roland in the sea. Yeah, he's his. I just don't get why they made a second Independence Day. When Will Smith pulled out, now he pulled out because he wanted more of his family members in it. Fair enough, people will say whether that was right or wrong. But I'm pretty sure the script obviously would have changed if Will Smith had been on board. Obviously, but as soon as he pulled out, I don't care how many of the old cast or old stars you bring back from the first movie. If you haven't got the main star to come back for the second movie, well then, you know, I'm not saying it doesn't work out. Um, it doesn't work out, but most of the time, let's be honest, it doesn't really, it doesn't really work, does it? I mean, the perfect an example I can give is actually Speed. Speed won with Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock, and then for Speed 2, apparently Keanu Reeves, you know, the rumor is he read the script and he was out, right? And then they replace him with another actor. And Cruise Control is probably one of the worst sequels ever made. It's a horrible movie. Lindsay doesn't like Tom Cruise. A lot of people don't like him, but you've got to admire what he does and what he puts his body through to do the movies that he does. Film Unit says, I remember when I used to go to Showcase with my class and it was really fun. This was the class that I was in high school and it was really fun, especially during Christmas. They would not make a sequel of Stargate without James Spader or Kurt Russell. It doesn't feel like Stargate to me. I agree with you. I agree, because the movie is actually not bad. People give that movie a bit of stick. I don't know why. The TV show was great though. I love Tom Cruise movies. I bought most of his films. As for Tom Cruise, the man, I don't let that cloud my judgment of his films, which are always highly enjoyable. Yeah, he does make some great movies, man. There's no doubt about that. And they are entertaining. I mean, as I said, I'd watched the Mission Impossible movies up until the fourth one, but had never watched the other movies because obviously the James Bond franchise I was more focused on that, got to be honest. But I decided a couple of months ago to start binge watching, and I started off from the very first Mission Impossible movie and worked my way through the whole franchise, and now I've actually caught up. So I'm actually looking forward to watching the new movie. Obviously, it's a two-parter, so but I can't wait. Did you know that Richard Griffiths almost played Doctor Who before it was cancelled? Was cancelled in the 80s? Yeah. There was a lot. Yeah, there was lots of names floating about at the time. I mean, the way it ended was a shambles. Got to be honest. And we could be heading for another shambles if the current showrunner doesn't pull off the same magic that he did in 2005. But we'll see what happens with that. as I said, not really talking about Doctor Who at the moment. We got Chris Persia in the chat. He says, "Even and all, nice to see you, Chris." Um, so yeah, as you're new in the chat as well, Chris, I'll ask you the same question. It doesn't have to be, obviously, and we know you're from Canada, so if there's any Canadian movies out there that that inspire you or make you feel patriotic, please give us a few examples in the chat there. Be nice to see. We've had a few suggestions from people in the chat there, as you can see if you scroll up through the chat. I gave mine at the start. Obviously, being from Ireland, I picked the ones that really inspire me. Raymond Williams says one of the best recent what movies I love was a film directed by Mel Gibson and starring Andrew Garfield. Awesome film based on a true story. Hacksaw Ridge. I love that movie, man. I mean, what that soldier actually done, and at the end of the movie, they actually show clips of your real man. What he did was extraordinary. Brilliant. I mean, he willingly went into a war zone and he had a moral objection about carrying a weapon because he wanted to save lives rather than take lives. It's a great movie, well directed again by Clint, and let's be honest, Andrew Garfield is an actor that seriously he should be getting a lot more roles in Hollywood. To be quite honest with you, I actually love him in The Social Network as well. It's one of my personal favorites. But yeah, he's a great Andrew Garfield, great actor, and of course for Doctor Who fans, he's in Doctor Who as well, so there'll always be that connection. So Chris can't think of any Canadian films, but for an American, my number one choice would be Mel Gibson's The Patriot. Another great movie by another great director who seems to be on the comeback trail. And his lead actor from The Passion of the Christ has actually released a very interesting movie about human trafficking, especially got to do with kids. And that was released, and Mel Gibson did a little promo for that movie as well. And I wish them all the best because, you know, when Hollywood stars do decide they've had enough, they either end up being disgraced, like Mel Gibson was, or they end up, you know, 6 feet under, let's just say, by some accident or something. Wink, wink. That's what films should do more often, bringing unknown but remarkable stories to the screen. Yeah, we lack that. I mean, Hollywood is so focused on going back into our past and ruining our beloved characters that we grew up with. But you are right, there are stories from the past that they haven't covered that they could tap into, but they choose not to because they're lazy. It's Hollywood. Star Trek The Next Generation reboot. Do you think it's possible to remake the series? Well, I grew up with Next Generation. That was my Trek growing up. But of course, I did also grow up watching the original series because my dad was a huge fan of the original series, and they used to show it back in the day on TV. So I got to see all of the original series. So when the original series dropped, a lot of people were saying that they couldn't make the show again, um, and update it, and of course they did with the next generation. Um, and I mean, if you look at Picard season three, or season was it season four, season three, season four, the last season, wherever the last season was, I watched it all. I just can't remember if it's season four, season three, or season four. I think it's season four, right? Um, so that has a connection to the next generation. So you may as well say that they kind of did reboot it. Kurtzman Trek obviously has people divided. I didn't like Discovery myself. I gave up on Lower Decks. I did like Star Trek Prodigy. I know it's aimed at kids, but they say even the writers had said that there is stuff to keep the adults going. I did watch that and I did enjoy that. I did like the fourth season of Strange New Worlds, but there was a lot to improve on that. But I have to say, the last season of Picard just blew me away because I wasn't expecting it to be as good as it was. But they still have a long way to go. They still have a long way to go. And I haven't started watching season two of Strange New World yet because I want to binge watch that. So I'm waiting until all the episodes come in. So I've been avoiding spoilers on that one. Dune Part 2, I have to say I haven't watched the fourth part yet. I've got loads of movies to catch up on and TV shows and stuff. I've got a whole bloody list, mate. In another era, Henry Cavill would have been a huge star. Talk about being born at the wrong time. He is a star, but I get what you're saying. I mean, Hollywood have treated him absolutely absolutely ridiculously. I mean, I look good man that's going to be playing Superman now. But the freaky thing is, I've seen a side to side picture of the two of them, and I mean, your man looks like Henry, so I don't. It's kind of. I don't. I don't get it. I still don't get it. Um. Corey Stoll as Lex Luthor. That was the guy that was in House of Cards, wasn't it? The bald guy. Yeah, he's a great actor. But again, I'm one of those a bit bitter. The fact that Henry has gone as Superman, so it's going to take me a bit of time to see if I can get on board with this Superman legacy. I did hear that they won't be doing an origin story with it, which I suppose is something great. But we'll see. We'll see. I haven't watched Billions yet either. Again, I've got a whole list of stuff to watch, but that's something that I do want to watch as well. I've just got so many shows. Squid Game as well is another one I've got to get. It was season 3 of Picard, says Chris. So yeah. Werewolf by Night. What did you think? That stars Laura Donnelly, doesn't it? I haven't seen it yet. Um, We'll have to try check that out. Willy Wonka, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory reboot wasn't great. I agree the reboot wasn't great. In terms that it was never going to beat the original. You're never going to beat the original Gene Wilder, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. You know. But what Tim Burton did with his movie, I actually have a soft spot for that movie. I like that movie quite a lot. I was actually hoping for a sequel to that movie, but it never materialized. But you are right. The Gene Wilder one is actually great. At this stage, the meddling the monk or the Rennie, who, well, I think there'll be more of a chance of the Rennie returning. But I would love to see the meddling monk back. I wouldn't mind seeing both of them back. I think it would be great now that it's on Disney Plus that you introduce fans to classic characters. If Henry doesn't get James Bond, then I hope it goes to a fellow Scotsman, Sam Hagen, from Outlander fame. Loves Stranger Things, says Lindsay. Yeah, I gave up on Stranger Things, got to be honest. I don't know what it was. I was really into the fourth season, and then I don't know what happened, but I was in the middle. I think I was in the middle of watching the second season, and then I think I just lost interest, to be honest. Matt Berry is the meddling monk, the guy from the IT crowd. I mean, if you want to go that direction with the cast, then I suppose you could go. You could. But I don't know. I think this Doctor Who under RTD is going to be a lot more brutal, and I mean brutal as in, I think it's going to be, we're going to see a lot more violence. Just got a weird feeling that he's going to up the ante. But anyway, I think we'll leave it there. We've been gone an hour and 8 minutes. And I think we kind of exhausted the patriotic movies, but we do have Top Gun and Top Gun Maverick are both patriotic. Batman Beyond the movie should have happened. No, not now. I'll leave with this. This is me final thought of the stream. I think Marvel plus DC are finished. I think the Flash showed how vulnerable DC is right now. They backed the wrong horse in Ezra Miller. I don't think the audience is going to forget that. I don't think the audience is going to forget how Henry Cavill was treated. I mean, when I say the audience, I mean the fans. I should stress that. I don't think the general public really give. Maybe they do, I don't know, but maybe they don't give a crap as much as fans do. But fans do have a lot of influence, and they do have a lot of power. And you've seen it recently, the numbers down on the Flash. Even the new Indiana Jones movie is tanking. People have just had enough. So I think DC is in serious trouble. And isn't Aquaman 2, isn't the second Aquaman movie still to drop? And that's got your one Amber Heard in it. So that's not going to do them any favors either. And the general audience will know about Amber Heard because of the high profile court case. And I'm pretty sure they would have known about Ezra Miller's behavior. I think DC have just got themselves in a situation where they backed the wrong horses. And, let's be honest, their movies haven't been stellar. And they haven't. So I think they're in serious trouble. And I think it's the same with Marvel. I think they're in serious trouble. I mean, you look at the abomination that is She-Hulk. I mean, I know some people liked it. My wife liked it. But absolutely rubbish. So, the quality of their content as well, along with their staff being treated poorly, bad CGI in their shows, even bad CGI in their big budget, so-called big budget movies. Now, I think both companies are actually in a lot of trouble. James Gunn, in fairness to him, I will give him one thing. He is actually trying to do something different because he's bringing characters to the mainstream audience that people would never have heard of, that just watch these movies casually. And he has to be commended for trying something different. But I think it's too little too late. And if you treat your audience the way they've been treating the audience, I think you're in a lot of trouble. Regarding the Flash, apparently they are saying that Aquaman 2 and any Ezra appearance will both be in George Clooney's Batman verse, meaning it's all pointless. There you go. And by the way, just might I add, we do know that the Joaquin Phoenix Joker 2 is coming out, but I don't even think that movie will save DC. For me personally, I think live action movies should stop for a while. There is fatigue there, and I know some of the media are trying to deny it, but there is. We've had 13 years of this. Yeah, it's run its course. If DC and Marvel had any brains, actually, they'd shut everything down for a few years and then come back when they've got fresh ideas and maybe start again. And maybe instead of, trying so hard to build these universes and extend it and stuff, you just do singular movies with sequels. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, this whole link in the movies, yeah, it was great when it used to happen at the start, but that's becoming a bit tedious as well. I'll always consider, DC for me, the Dark Knight trilogy. I consider that one of the finest trilogies in the DC universe. It's just such a shame that they didn't maybe do that with other characters that they have at their disposal and do 3 movies. They didn't even need to link them. Once you're making good quality movies of these characters, nobody gives a damn really whether it's only the hardcore fans really that are into all of that multiverse and extended universe stuff. The rest of us just want movies, like, do you know what I mean? So I don't know. It's not the Doctor's way to be violent. I'm not saying the Doctor necessarily will be more violent. I'm talking about, if you look at the Tom Baker era, and you look to be a bit, I suppose I could say a bit more active, getting their hands dirty, was probably the way I should have put it. But Yeah, that's where I think those two companies are, but that's just a personal opinion. Of course, if you think that they can turn this around, I hope you're right. I really do, because I don't mind. Look, there is fatigue. Don't get me wrong, and there is, right. But me personally, right, if they just make good movies, if they make great movies, I'll watch them. I'd still watch them, man. Right, and they'd be enjoyable. You know what I mean? Look at the Fast and the Furious bleeding franchise, for God's sake. How many movies has that got now? 10? Right? And I'm like, they're baffled. Why has it got 9 fucking sequels? Well, 8 because Tokyo Drift, but I think then further down the line they kind of connected that movie. So it's had 9 sequels. Right? And then I'm like, I'm amazed, but then you kind of break it down and you see why. Because it's popular, it's entertaining. Yeah, it mightn't be the most intelligent movies to watch, but they've got a story, and it gets bums in seats. They just need to. Do you know? I think what's happened. There's been this hyper realism, as I said. We were talking about war movies earlier. They've done that with comic book movies. And the Dark Knight trilogy is a perfect example of that. But it was good. When it was done well, it was done well. But let's be honest, it's kind of gone that way then now for the last, 8, 9, 10 years. So it hasn't really changed or freshened up. The reason why Joker for DC was such a hit was because it was a breath of fresh air. It was something completely different. It was something the audience weren't expecting. And this is what these companies need to do. And this is why I think James Gunn is trying to do what he's doing and introduce all of these different things and all these TV shows. He is trying to do something different, but this should have been probably done 2-3 years ago. I just don't see them recovering, especially after what's just happened. And Marvel has been a joke for a while. To be honest, I gave up on Marvel a long time ago, to be quite honest with you. Endgame was the end game for me. Right? I tried to watch all the other crap that they released, and it is crap. The quality completely went out the window after Endgame. And in fairness, if people are being really, truly honest with themselves, the quality actually started to dip a long time before Endgame. Right? Because they went on too long. There's only so much you can do. And then, you make this thing so big, then by the end, you have to deliver. And let's be honest, at the time, everybody was ranting and raving about Endgame. But as they've all relaxed and a few years has gone by now, I think people can actually say that Endgame wasn't as great as everybody made it out to be. And that was the end game. So Marvel was already dead in the water after that. DC just managed to trickle on for a little bit longer. But as soon as Snyder was done and all that nonsense happened, and then DC then gave in to the fans and then gave them the Snyder cut and all of this crap, and then all the other crap, then released this cut and all of this. DC's a shambles right now. DC actually weakened their position when they gave the fans the Snyder Cut. I'm not saying they shouldn't. I mean, I love the Snyder Cut. I think it's a masterpiece. Yes, it's heavy on the CGI. Obviously, he had to, make finish to complete what he wanted on a budget. But it worked. It was great. 4 hours. I've enjoyed it. It flew by. And even if it did feel a bit long, you had chapters. You could pause it and then go back to it. But it was great. But let's be honest, the Zack Snyder universe was actually, he was inconsistent. I'm sorry, but he was. He's not this great person, a great creator as everybody thinks he is. I'm sorry, he's not. I don't like James Gunn either. So already I'm kind of like, Nah, I don't think it's gonna work. The only movie I've liked that James Gunn's is Guardians of the Galaxy, and there's just the first one. I haven't liked any of his other movies. Got to be honest, I haven't. There's just something about him I don't like, and there's just something about his movies I don't like. I didn't like the Suicide Squad that he did either. A bleeding giant starfish man looking thing. What the hell, man? I'm sorry, I know it looks more comic booky and all of that, but Jesus Christ, that was just ridiculous. Every man in it as well was a problem. One was an addict. The other one had mammy issues. That was Polka Dot Guy. He had issues with his mammy. There was another one that had something else wrong with him as well, but everybody was praising this movie. And then you get Peter Capaldi in it, right? And then you absolutely waste him. I mean, if you liked it, that's fair enough. I got to be honest, I didn't like it. And I mean, my wife, who's a huge fan of the Suicide Squad, was looking forward to this James Gunn movie, and she was even looking at me going, what the hell? We could have a perfect DC. We could have had a perfect DC if they listened to Christopher Reeves and have him appear in a small cameo at the end of Batman Returns. Then we could have had something uplifting. I agree, man. I agree. And when you hear of some of the projects that were binned or rewritten, you had several writers writing scripts and all of this. I mean, how they managed to get a working movie out baffles me, but they do. Superheroes aren't realistic. That is why that is what has always drew our attention, similar to sci-fi. Endgame was full of problems. Infinity War was the end of good Marvel movies. Infinity War is a far superior movie, man. It's a far superior movie. Winter Soldier is a far superior movie. I mean, they made some great. I'm not listening. I'm not going to sit here and say they didn't make some great movies, both studios, but they've lost their way. They've lost their way, and I think there is a problem when you start extending these universes and doing all of these things. But what do I know? I don't work in the industry. I need comment on it. I will give you Exhibit A, the 5-year blip. The Suicide Squad 2021 was great. And as I said, if you have that opinion, that's fair enough. I'm glad that movie was everything that you wanted it to be. But it just wasn't my thing, wasn't my jam. Endgame did end it. It was a huge mistake killing off Iron Man, Captain America. The 5-year glitch was the stupidest thing they ever did. It missed everything. It messed everything else up that came after. Exactly. The reason why Batman Forever was R-rated because parents didn't know how to parent their kids and restrict them from watching the original trilogy. I think that's no. I have to disagree with you on that one. And the reason why I say that is because their parents were more open-minded than parents are today. Listen, when I was a kid, and I mean a proper kid, I watched Nightmare on Elm Street. I watched The Exorcist. I watched action movies. I watched Aliens growing up, right? It was a few people like you have today, like the leftist twats that you have today. We had a few of them back in the day, and you had these concerned mothers and all of this, and you were giving out about the gaming industry and the film industry. Parents on the whole did not give two fecks what their kids were watching once it wasn't anything that they shouldn't be watching, if you get what I mean. Like, you know, what we see a lot of on social media, that sort of thing, adult stuff of the other nature. Do you get me? Right? But when it came to action movies and it came to stuff like that, no, parents on the whole didn't give a crap. Sure, parents would put those movies on while their kids were out, while they were out in the pub to keep their kids distracted in the house. They put on a movie for them. So I'd have to actually disagree with that. It was a group of these idiots that you always have in society that want to complain about something because they got nothing better to do, or they just don't have a great sex life, basically. So they moan at everybody else. Oh, this is outrageous, right? We had it in the Doctor Who fandom as well, right? We had some crackpot that was going around giving out about how ultra violent Doctor Who was. You know, we have these lunatics all the time. So I wouldn't say, I have to be honest, I wouldn't be blaming parents here. It's not parents on the whole. It's these little idiots. But yeah, the film boards as well would also be responsible for the rating as well. Because remember, they were back in the day, they were a lot more strict than they are today as well. So it's a combination of the two. But parents on the whole, now, man, I grew up with some of watching the most iconic movies as a kid, and grew up with them throughout my whole life because they were always on. Knives Out 3. I haven't even seen the first two. Ryan Johnson movies, aren't they? Yeah. I'm not really. I mean, he has to be better than what his Star Wars was. But I just haven't had the. I watched the Sweeney when I was still in primary school. That was hard-hitting crime series. Never did me any harm whatsoever. Yeah. I mean, even, do you remember Taggart back in the day was another one? Yeah. Even The Bill back in the day, that was pretty hardcore. You know, even Grange Hill, stuff like that. Even teen programs. You know, remember Boyko Grove? You know, the whole series where Ant's character is blinded with a paint gun and stuff. Like, they dealt with real issues as well, man. Dealt with teen pregnancy and all of that. Like, it wasn't their parents, trust me. It was a few idiots that like what we have today, except there's a lot more idiots now on the left. But we had a few of those idiots when we were growing up. But on the whole, they didn't do as much damage as they're doing today. I mean, they want to censor. I mean, it's funny. They want to censor certain stuff, but then allow other stuff that's like quite sickening to us. So they've kind of gone the other way with it, which is kind of ridiculous. But there you go. But that's the way we grew up. Parents nowadays, you know, as I said, on the whole, most parents, you know, I say parents, they're a bit more careful what they show their kids. Not saying they're not. But, you know, when we were growing up, that wasn't a thing. I mean, it wasn't. At some of the real bad parts, like, for example, I'll give you an example. I can remember this, and I've seen this movie loads of times, and then when I actually got to see the scene for the first time, because this is what used to happen. You'd sit down and watch Aliens with your mom and dad, and you'd have your brothers and sisters there, but they've already watched the movie the first time, right? Because obviously it was a new movie. So when it came to the parts that they didn't want us to watch, they told us to either put our hands over our eyes, or to basically make sure our eyes were covered, or turn our head away from the telly until the scene was gone. Or if it was really extreme, and some of the horrors were back in the day, my parents used to fast forward it with the remote. But we used to get to watch the movies. but we'd hear all the actions. We'd still hear everything. So when in Aliens where your woman comes alive, do you remember? And they're all there, oh, she's alive. And then they say she's having a convulsion. And then the alien pops out of her chest, right? I would hear all of that as a kid, but not actually see it. It was only when I got a little bit older then, because it was a favorite movie franchise in the house, they put it on. I finally got to see the scene for the first time. But it was like as if I'd already pictured it in my head because of all the sounds and stuff like that. But never traumatized, man. RoboCop as well. Watched that as a kid as well. Jesus Christ, that's ultra violent. I mean, each of the movies. I mean, that scene where Murphy gets his bleeding hand shot off with the shotgun. I mean, I watched that as a kid. Not going around bleeding, doing stuff that I shouldn't be doing, basically. I let my teenagers watch Pulp Fiction. Yes. I wish people would stop complaining about the Doctor Who being woke because of the actor's skin color. Well, if people are talking about that, listen. Bottom line is, you're gonna look. I don't want to get into Doctor Who, but I will say this, right? All I care about, and the majority of fans care about, is he good playing the Doctor? If he is, skin color is irrelevant, right? But at the end of the day, there's going to be people out there that do think there is an issue, right? Now, unlike other people, I'm not going to say that's racist. They're entitled to their opinion. They're not being right. When you listen to people and listen to their point of view, right? Seriously, I've seen downright racism towards Shooty, and then those that are worried that maybe Shooty's casting was done because, BBC wanted the diversity and inclusion strategy that was talked so much about, and that's what people are worried about. Those genuine concerns are just concerns. At the end of the day, the only way that people will find out whether Shooty is good or not is when we see him on screen for the first time playing the Doctor. For now, we can't judge him, right? And for now, the focus is obviously the 60th. So if people are still banging on about and got to do with Shooty, we're still a long way away from seeing Shooty. Christmas, we'll see him. But wait until then, and then we'll judge. I judge people based on their acting, right? I watched Blade 2 in college. Great movie. They're still releasing the Jimmy Savile film. No, it's a TV show, and it's being put on hold. The last time I did do a stream on it, because we have covered this topic on this channel, because not a lot of channels will cover it. But on their last stream that we did speak about it on, they had delayed the show. They wanted, apparently, they just legal and all. See, it is good that I'm hearing that they're getting legal involved and they're talking to victims and their families and stuff like that. But the thing that baffles me is why the BBC, and I know it's a co-production with ITV, but why BBC would want to drag all of this up again, and basically whether they'll admit it or not, some of those victims will be re-traumatized by this. They might be okay with it now, but when it's released, it could be a different story. So it's been put on hold. Maybe there has been some objections by some of the victims. This is just me now speculating. I obviously don't know the finer details, but it has been put on hold. So we have to see what happens with that one. Charlie's Angels, when I was 6, loved it. Yeah. Those original, those movies weren't bad, actually. And I mean, Cameron Diaz and well, who was it? Lucy Liu and Drew Barrymore. I mean, what's there not to love? My sister worked in a video shop, and I watched all shot of movies from U to 18. It was fantastic. Yeah, I mean, look, we were brought up differently. Our parents are doing things that you wouldn't get away with in today's society. They'd actually probably be all locked up. Our parents, um, but it did us no harm because here's the difference. We knew the difference between real life and movies and TV shows, and we didn't want to try and recreate it in our real lives, like But there you go. What can you say? That's modern society. But look, we'll wrap it up there. I want to thank everybody in the chat that has popped in. We did start obviously a half an hour earlier than we normally do, and that's why the chat was a bit slow at the start. But it's nice to see you all come in and give you our opinions. We got a little bit sidetracked there because people were just throwing in random comments, but at the end of the day, wherever happens on these streams, I will oblige and go along with. And there has been some great comments there today as well, and some great opinions. And I want to thank you all. At the end of the day, this is I'll leave you with this, right? At the end of the day, the one thing I could say about our parents is this: no matter what movies we watched or TV shows we watched, if we got out of hand, our parents disciplined us. And this is why I think we never did crazy stuff like we see our youth do today. We don't get involved in any of that crazy stuff, and we never did that crazy stuff because our parents taught us right from wrong, and they enforced that right from wrong. You know what I mean? They weren't part-time parents. They actually were parents. And I think that's the difference nowadays. I think parents want to be their kid's best friend and stuff like this. And, a lot of parents have this philosophy of letting the kids, without rules, without discipline, and let them, I'm sorry, but every human being, it doesn't matter whether you're working, grow, you need those things in place to help you get on in life and to become a good person or the best person that you can be. So yeah, what I'm trying to say is that parents need to step up more, stop moaning about not being able to handle your kids. If you can't handle your kids, you shouldn't have kids in the first place. But that's life. But their parents might have moaned about it, but they got on with it, and they raised us. And I don't think they did us. They did a bad job. So, you could parents of today could learn from the past. I'm not saying you should slap your kids around and all of that. That for me, no, you should never do that. I mean, that's what our parents did, but that was a different time. But there are ways of disciplining your child today that don't involve any physical slaps or anything like that. You can instill manners into your child and teach them right from wrong. And here's the thing though, you could do a great job, but there always are and always will be bad apples. We get them in every walks of life. Unfortunately, there are some bad apples, but on the whole, most of us are well adjusted and were brought up, as I would consider, the right way. You need rules, you need discipline. All this, let kids be what they want and all of this crap and all. If that's the case, listen, if my parents had done that, I'd be an astronaut. I'd be a fucking, I'd be a fireman. I'd be a postman. I would be, I'd be traveling back through time in a time machine to be on the Titanic because I had such a fascination growing up as a kid with that ship when we found out. Obviously, it was a big major thing in the 80s, and as a kid, that fascinated me. I meant the old TV series of Charlie's Angels. Oh, okay. Yes, that was actually pretty good. You had Wonder Woman as well, Bionic Woman, and all of those other classic American TV shows. But yeah, that's it. That's all I have to really say about it. But just, I do believe that's what we've lost. You got to teach your kids right from wrong, and you know, and not give in to their childhood fantasies or dreams, because we all have them. Because we grow out of them. But anyway, on that note, before it turns into a completely different conversation, I'm going to leave it there. I want to thank, because we got a couple of new people in the chat and a couple of old faces in the chat as well. So I want to thank Lindsay, the 99 Doctor Film Union, Raymond is also Chris in the chat as well. Lindsay, of course. And who else? Pretty sure there might have been someone else. I could be wrong. I think that's everybody. And as I said, the 99 Doctor there as well. So I want to thank you all for tuning in. We will be back tomorrow on Wednesday, obviously, is with Queen Charlotte. Hopefully, PD Rich is here as well. We'll be back at our usual time of 7. So come and join us. We will have plenty to talk about, and I think Queen Charlotte might have some Witcher news and stuff to talk about. So come and join us for that one. I really appreciate the support. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe, and also if you could like the video as well, the stream, it actually helps with the algorithm also. And thank you there, Raymond, and thank you, the 99 Doctor. Night to you all. I shall talk to you soon. Have a good evening. Good night. Bye-bye.